Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli, brought to you by the great people at Wapner Newman, the law firm that's been winning for families in Philadelphia and the Jersey area since 1978. I'll tell you who didn't win and who weren't winners. It was the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. We're a few hours from being bruised up by what happened yesterday as the Niners win 23-19 at Lincoln Financial Field in the wild card game. Shocking, devastating, disheartening, horrendous, whatever term you want to use for this. The Eagles lost to a team that was depleted coming in with all kinds of banged up guys. They lose a major weapon early in the game in George Kittle. They had to fly across the country 3 time zones to get to Philadelphia, where it was cold and windy. And they showed the same profile that they've been showing the whole time. And I'm going to tell you something else. We got conned. We got conned into thinking that this Eagles team in the playoffs were going to be able to be one of those teams that flipped the switch and their offense was suddenly going to waken up. Well, in the first half, it was okay. And in the second half, like we've seen most of the year, it was non-existent. It was absolutely ridiculous that the Eagles would lose a game with leads going into the fourth quarter. For instance, 6-point lead into the fourth quarter. A team with the Eagles' pedigree at home should not lose that game. The Eagles led 13-7 midway through the second quarter. The offense failed to get a first down on 4 of the next 5 possessions. And they took a 6-point lead into the fourth quarter, which we already talked about, where they could have nailed it down, and they actually did not nail it down. In fact, they went the other way. Well, they did have a final drive where they had a chance to pull out the game. So let's go to that final drive to tell you what happened. And we're going to go over it with our play-by-play. They started at the 35-yard line. They got decent field position off 49er kickoffs all game long because the kicker kicked it in the end zone, which you don't see kickers do anymore. Because if you don't kick it in the end zone, you're starting to drive it like the 23-yard line. That's how good special teams are in covering the kickoff these days. So they start at the 35 with 2:54 left. Hurts goes to Barkley for 2. Hurts to Barkley for 3. 3rd and 5, middle throw, right there. AJ drops it. Now, at that point, you go, this guy's head was not in the game. There was a sideline confrontation that we'll get into in a couple seconds, but his head wasn't in the game. He didn't catch that ball. Maybe the difference between a diva being put upon by his head coach and a guy whose head is really in the game. But on 4th and 5, they do go for it, and they get it. So they wipe away that drop because Hurts had got it for a first down at the Niners' 45-yard line. Then he goes to Devontae for 30 to the 35. Then he goes to Devontae again to the 21. They're at the 21-yard line, 1st and 10. On first down, he gets sacked -1. On second down, he has to roll right. He throws it away. That sets up a 3rd and 11 at the 22. Then he throws incomplete to Smith, and here's the 4th and 11 pass. Hurts over the middle into triple coverage where 107-year-old Eric Kendricks breaks it up, and the ball game is over. And we're left stunned in silence. We can't believe that the Eagles would lose this game to the San Francisco 49ers. It's amazing. The 49ers hit on a reverse pass touchdown, Juwan Jennings to McCaffrey, after it was flipped to Juwan Jennings on kind of a jet sweep action. Then they get one TD pass to McCaffrey for the go-ahead touchdown. The 49ers had the explosive plays with junior varsity receivers. I mean, are you kidding me? Jamarcus Robinson, Juwan Jennings are their receivers in this game. They got by with it. They had the explosive plays that the Eagles try to cultivate all the time, and they didn't cultivate any. And the Niners cultivated 3 of them in this game, including a trick play which fooled Blankenship. And also there was a sideline confrontation. So let me just talk about this sideline confrontation. It was 4th down. Nick Sirianni, and you could see it, he was saying, get off the field. He was yelling, get off the field to A.J. Brown. Now, I don't know if A.J. Brown was the only guy who wasn't getting off the field quickly. But here's what this told me. And the coach denied it afterwards, saying that they're buds the whole bit. They have a great relationship the whole bit. But when you yell at a player like that on the sidelines, you've got a nut for that guy. There's something that Nick Sirianni has been not pleased with A.J. Brown, and that moment manifested itself. He picked on AJ. You never do that. I'm not saying AJ Brown is a saint. He's a diva. He's caused a lot of problems this year. He's had his mouth going all year long. but you don't embarrass a player. These are grown men. And when you embarrass a player, that player holds that in the back of his head. And Sirianni should know better. Get off the field, and then he has a confrontation with the guy. That means the least little thing triggered Nick Sirianni into getting on A.J. Brown, which means their relationship for me is fractured. That's a fractured relationship, and we'll talk about that a little later, whether A.J. Brown should come back to this team or not. What else happened in this game? The Eagles' offense was terrible in the second half. They got no pass rush on defense. This vaunted defense gave up 321 yards to the San Francisco 49ers. They dropped passes. They lacked discipline with pre-snap penalties. 7 penalties for the Eagles to 1 for San Francisco. They couldn't score more than 19 points against a weakened defense. And that's been the case all year long. They've averaged like 19 points over the last 7 games. They couldn't flip the switch on offense. The offense never could get right. Their identity this whole second half of the season has been, okay, we can score 17 points and hope our defense rescues them. Well, the defense didn't rescue them yesterday. They gave up explosive plays. I know that Quinyon Mitchell had a couple interceptions. He also gave up a couple of balls early on that stoked the 49ers to a 7-0 lead. McCaffrey's 6-yard TD pass wins it, but you can go all through this whole thing and come up with different plays to focus on why the Eagles did not win this game. Again, this is one of the most devastating losses that I've ever seen, and I've been in this business for a really long time. You cannot lose. The line had gone up to 6 points in this game. The Eagles were a 6-point favorite, believe it or not. It went back down to 4. But at one point, they were a 6-point favorite, which means the odds makers were saying, well, this 49er team is beat up. There's no way they can come into Lincoln Financial Field and win this game, especially in these conditions. And yet they did it. And so the Philadelphia Eagles are done for the season. What happens from this point on, we don't know. We'll speculate on it all show long. Let's bring in my producer, Mike Warren. Mike, I know you're bitter. You're absolutely bitter about this loss. Talking to you before the show, go ahead. Tell us on the Eagles. They were what we thought they were, and we were in denial about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team did the same thing all year long. It was plays left out there on the field. It was not executing plays. It was bland play calling, terrible play design, whatever you want to say. But this team has had so many narratives and so many storylines around it. And the one thing that they didn't do all year long was convince people that they could win when it mattered most. Even the Bills game, no matter what it was, they had struggles all season long. And that starts from inside the locker room. And the fact that your head coach can't get a wrap on it, it's a little bit disgraceful. I was saying to you before the show, there was a time in football when we had Hank Fraley and Trey Thomas here with the Eagles, and we didn't hear a peep from them. Nobody cared what the offensive lineman had to say. All season long, all we heard from was Jordan Mailata, A.J. Brown, all these guys in the locker room. I don't care what they have to say because they don't produce on the field. So the fact that we have a lineman talking as much as he does and players coming out saying all the things that they have to say, and at the end of the day, A.J. Brown was right. He was right. He said you can't just slap a Band-Aid on this and expect to win when it matters most, and he was right. But guess what? He failed to show up in the big moment, dropping 3 crucial passes.
It's funny. When did he fail to show up? He failed to show up exactly after that confrontation happened.
Yep, exactly. And I agree with you entirely. The fact that Nick Sirianni had, what does he do? What does he do? All he does after every single game is get up there on the podium and say, well, it starts with me. I need to be better. I have to be better. And then he proceeds to not be better. He has no identity. He has no identity. Nick Sirianni, handshake James Franklin, no identity. They just are motivators. And if you have to motivate grown men to play a child's game, there's a serious problem, especially when they're getting paid millions of dollars. There's a serious problem. So Nick Sirianni needs to look in the mirror and think, man, maybe I need to learn how to call plays and how to scheme up some offense because this has his name all over it. And Kevin Patullo, the second that they jumped for joy on that Bills sideline, should have showed every single Eagles fan that we aren't winning anything this year. You're celebrating a 7-0 game in the first quarter like you just won the Super Bowl. You are a joke and a disgrace, my man. Figure it out. Get your priorities in line. What are we doing here, man? Like, this is a team that last year was being talked about as the best team the sport has ever seen. And now this year, they are a laughingstock that lost to a bunch of 3rd and 4th stringers on their home field. That's a problem. And the fact that Kevin Patullo still has a job is a problem. Howie Roseman needs to make it right, and this is going to be a big offseason for Howie Roseman. A lot of guys their contracts are expiring, and you're going to see if he's actually a good GM this offseason, because you got Reed Blankenship off the books, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. off the books. You got a potential. You might lose AJ Brown this offseason. You could lose a ton more talent in the Trent. Tank Bigsby was a rental. Like, you don't have anybody coming back that you did, and this was your window to prove to everybody that you were the best team in a 2-year span in football.
Yeah, this was the last stand they had to make, and they did not make it. I'm still in disbelief that they lost the game. I just can't fathom that they lost the game to this team. This team had no business coming in here and winning this game, and the Eagles let them win it. It's just really as simple as that. They played this game like they were looking ahead to the next game, and they were looking at how good everybody was saying they were, and they're defending Super Bowl champs and all that. And the game, frankly, was boring. It was a boring game. It was a hard game to watch, don't you think?
Yeah, there was no pop. There was no flair in this game. It started from, again, I said it to you pre-show, Demarcus Robinson is the new Joe Webb. Like, who is this guy? Cutting across the field, making Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who just got named first-team All-Pros, look like they're rookies again. Like, it was an embarrassment from the first snap. You got a 3-yard loss in the first play, and then from that point on, it was all downhill. You couldn't figure it out. There was no complimentary football. Just, it's a disgrace.
What was your spin on the confrontation on the sidelines?
Again, what is Nick Sirianni doing? Like, as a head coach, the fact that his whole thing is, I need to, if I feel my attention needs to go to that, then it's going to go to it. But I agree with you. Like, why are you seeking out A.J. Brown to get off the field? There were other players, linemen, who not only struggled getting off the field, struggled getting to the line of scrimmage so that Jalen could assess the play in time all season long. You want to talk about little details, like how about you get on guys getting in and out of the huddle on time?
It's clearly, he's clearly got something going on with A.J. Brown. For him to 100%. Snap at A.J. Brown like that was the final button that was pushed for Sirianni. And he 100%. Lied about it afterwards. He said, we're great. We get along great, the whole bit.
Yeah, there's one thing that Nick Sirianni does well, and it's he hammers home the PR punchlines, which is, I've got a good relationship with my guys. It starts with me. Like, he sits in those classes that the Eagles PR team puts him in, and he is front row notes, highlighting, underline, bolding the statements that he has to say to regurgitate so that you don't really get a real answer. You'll notice I don't have a lot of audio from Nick Sirianni for us today because he really doesn't say anything of substance. In fact,
this is a great day for the chat board. The chat board is humming already. And August Drums says, I just can't listen to Sirianni say, well, that's on me, and then just get away with it week after week. There was an issue to fix the offense, and Nick failed to fix it over the whole season. It's unacceptable. And he's absolutely right. He had a chance to fix this thing. Even on that last play call, that's a terrible play call where Jalen Hurts throws kind of a panic ball. He sees triple coverage there. There was no concept on that last play. And you would think that they could come up with a better play than that.
The 3rd and 11 play, or the 3rd and long play they converted on the crosser to Goddard before that, they could have just dialed up that play again.
Yeah.
It was open in the middle of the field. Like, this team's inability to look at what worked versus what doesn't. I mean, you had an offensive coordinator that got up on the podium at one point this year and says, well, we're just running things to run it. That's like the biggest red flag of all time. You're just running things to run it. Like, Pop Warner teams don't even do that, my guy. Like, you got to figure it out, man. And like, they just did not. And it was clear as day that Kyle Shanahan knew that even with just Christian McCaffrey, obviously he didn't know George Kittle's going to go down as early as he did, but 2nd, 3rd string, 4th string don't matter. Mike Shanahan's scheme over Nick Sirianni's scheme any day of the week.
Yeah, Kimberly chimes in. Even if they won, they weren't going to winning the Super Bowl. Well, that really is irrelevant. They weren't going to win the Super Bowl. You can look at the second round game. They would have had to go to Chicago. I don't think that was a game that they couldn't have won. Maybe they would have lost to Seattle and not gotten to the Super Bowl. Maybe that's the possibility. But you're losing focus on what this game was. To get to that next level, you got to win this game first. And they were so prohibitively the favorite in this game. For them not to win it it turns out to be one of the worst losses of all time.
Without a doubt. It's an embarrassing loss. It's as bad as it gets for this team, this much talent. And there's a lot that goes back to Nick Sirianni's opening statements, when he first took this job, saying that we're going to have a simple scheme and we're going to rely on our talent. Well, that's what they did this year. They relied on their talent to bail them out of a garbage offensive scheme. and you saw how much they were able to even put up on the scoreboard. We should be applauding 19 points, honestly. The fact that we have so many guys running 3 yards, turning and facing the quarterback, the fact that they were able to put up 19 points in this game is impressive because their coaches failed to put them in position to be successful and to get them in space. The name of the game in football is get your athletes in space with the football.
Exactly.
And they just didn't do it.
And to that end, they play a cover 2 shell, San Francisco, and the linebackers were the 4th and 5th and 6th stringers, and they couldn't use the middle of the field with their pass attack. Everything was to the outside. They never used the middle of the field, except for a couple of the Goddard.
That's what we brought up last week on the show, Mike. I said there's not one guy on this active depth chart for San Francisco that is capable of covering Dallas Goedert or A.J. Brown in the middle of the field. You would think that, me, average Joe sitting on their couch, the fact that I'm able to diagnose that, you would think the guys that get paid tens of millions of dollars to scheme up offense and to put guys in position to succeed would recognize that as well, and they didn't. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and Steve Coran says, embarrassing just isn't enough to describe that horrendous performance. He's right. Richard Tate has an interesting little concept here. Do you think A.J. Brown intentionally dropped those passes? Well, no, I don't think he intentionally dropped those passes. But when there's a lapse in concentration, and when you're not on the edge of competitiveness, and I believe that took the starch out of A.J., that confrontation on the sideline where he wasn't sharp enough mentally to make those catches. The 2 balls that he probably should have caught. One, definitely the last one before they hit Goddard, but the one on the sideline should have been caught as well.
100%. And I'll give AJ a little benefit of the doubt with there was the one out route or the one fly route on the sideline where don't know his name, but he wore number 0, the defensive back for San Fran. He got away with a couple of 2 arms on the outside of the jersey holds last night that were just egregious. And no other receiver other than A.J. Brown is able to throw him off and still have a chance to catch the ball. There should have been a flag on that play. A.J. still should have caught the ball, but yeah, too many drops. You want to talk about, and it was Shannon Sharp, the guy that he tweeted it as well after the game. This is the problem with a diva wide receiver. The second you start talking about targets, the second that you drop one of those balls, they got receipts. People have receipts on it. And Shannon Sharp knows it clear as day.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't think A.J. Brown's going to be back next year, nor do I think Kevin Patullo is back. But this is an interesting part of it. Kevin Patullo has been banged around all year. He is really close with Nick Sirianni. Do you think that Sirianni would pull the trigger on him, or would he convince management to give Kevin another shot?
If Nick Sirianni is going to try to convince anybody in upper management to give Kevin Patullo another shot, he better have the magic serum that nobody knows about and all of the answers, because we saw this before with him where it was his offense and the front office wanted answers and he had none. And it was Howie Roseman that went out and got the next offensive coordinator after that, and it was Kellen Moore. So it's a clear as day, simple solution. Yeah. Nick Sirianni is not allowed to pick his offensive coordinator anymore.
Yeah, like but Sirianni wasn't friends with Brian Johnson. They did that. They did that for Hurts. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Another thing was the lack of a pass rush. Now, we've been lauding Jalen Phillips. He was invisible in this game, and Tom Hennessy points it out on our chat. I thought this defense would be all over Purdy like they were on Mahomes last year. Purdy got off easy. He really did get off easy. They did not put any heat on that quarterback.
None. No pressure at all. Jalen Carter was nowhere to be found in this game as well. I get it. He was been dealing with the shoulder stuff, but nowhere to be found was Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis goes down. He's by far your most consistent interior lineman or lineman as a whole. Nolan Smith was MIA in this game. Now, I saw people complaining about the Trent Williams hold that he gets away with, but guess what? When you're Trent Williams, you get away with that. Lane Johnson gets away with it too. It is what it is. But yeah, no pressure from the front 4, and you didn't see one Nakobe Dean blitz dialed up in this game either. So that was kind of shocking to me as well. None of that bulldog mentality where Nakobe's coming through the A gap, blowing up the backer, staying in the block. We didn't have that punch in the mouth mentality. They came out swinging first. They set the tone in that game, and the Eagles, it was an uphill battle from the rest of the time after that. Terrible.
Yeah. August Drums says, Mike, have you ever seen a coach followed by his bodyguard to push his own players away from him on the sidelines? Sirianni has to be done. They have had the same issues all year. He can't fix it. Well, I agree that he can't fix it. I also agree or don't agree that he's going to be done. He's got receipts. I mean, listen, they won a Super Bowl last year, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way they're going to fire Nick Sirianni, right?
No,
He's not even in trouble.
I see people saying, bring in Harbaugh, like let go of Sirianni. Like, granted, I'm a firm believer. I said it to you before the show. If you do get rid of Nick Sirianni, I don't think there's another NFL team that's going to make him their head coach. That's just my belief. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but I don't think anyone's come calling saying like, oh, we need Nick Sirianni to run the show here because he's proven this, and this in terms of controlling a locker room. But in that same regard, you've proven that when you have a structure in place with a GM that knows how to get the right guys in the building, that it can work out and you can be the last team standing on the last Sunday of the NFL season. So if they can get that right guy in here, we don't know who it is, but I don't think it's Brian Daboll or any of these guys that have gotten, released recently. I think they're going to get somebody that nobody's really heard of. That's kind of a player's coach. Yeah.
Some up and coming guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll sell him like crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Some guy on the chat board said, Mike Bitchinelli. Let me ask you a question. How do you not bitch about a game like that? Like, I know we're being hard on the Eagles here, but how do you not bitch about what happened yesterday? Like, my eyes couldn't believe it. When they got to the 21-yard line, I said, well, they're going to win this game. I had no problem at all thinking they were going to come back and win this game. And they didn't do it. They had 4 downs to do it, and they couldn't do it. That's not – and this is with a team with a lot of talent on offense, and they couldn't get the ball in the end zone.
My whole reaction the entire game was, from the jump after the big Demarcus Robinson play, when San Fran goes down the field, I said it from the beginning that Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni better have the best 15, because if they don't, and they don't march down the field and respond, it's going to be bad. Well, when Jake Elliott misses the extra point and you see the self-talk that he's having, you knew the mindset of this team. You knew where they were at mentally, and it wasn't in a good place. The 49ers came into Lincoln Financial Field, and they did exactly what they did 2 years ago. They talked their stuff. They came into your house. They took your game from you, and they said, see ya, we're out. And it was embarrassing. Like, I know I keep saying it, but, like, when you have the highest payroll in the NFL at the most important skill positions – and you lose to 3rd and 4th and 5th stringers, that is an utter embarrassment, and that is something that deserves to be talked about, not just for a week, but for an entire offseason. And that's what's going to be talked about. Nick Sirianni couldn't get it under control. He couldn't figure out a way to beat a team that was essentially a preseason roster. That is what needs to be talked about.
Let's go to the post-game sound of this game. Let's start out with Nick Sirianni on his explanation on why the offense struggled in the second half. Here's the coach.
Yeah, felt like that was kind of our story as the year progressed, and good, like you said, good first half. Didn't do a good enough job coaching. Didn't do a good enough job executing in the second half. In that third quarter, particularly. Some penalties got us behind the sticks, and we had a hard time overcoming them.
Yeah, they got behind the sticks a lot, and that's because they run the ball on predictable downs and stay behind the sticks. For as good a game as Saquon had, he was also stopped behind the line a few times, and they couldn't unleash him like consistently. He did have over 100 yards, I get it, on a lot of carries, but Sirianni obviously was going to be asked about his confrontation with A.J. Brown, which stands out. I mean, listen, every media outlet sees that, and they want to embellish it, whatever. So, reading Sirianni, he was saying, get off the field. But he was saying it in a way where you were berating a player, a veteran player. And players don't like to be berated, especially in public like that. So here's what he had to say about that. Listen closely about how he tries to cover up for this.
Yeah, I was trying to get him off the field, because we were about to punt, and that was really it. So I love AJ. I think he knows how I feel about him. I have a special relationship with him. We've probably went through every emotion you can possibly have together. We've laughed together. We've cried together. We've yelled at each other. We're both emotional. I was trying to get him off the field, and you never want, that happens in this game. That happens in this game, but I love him.
It doesn't happen in this game. It shouldn't happen in this game. Your head coach should be under control a lot more than to bruise a player's feelings. I'm not saying AJ Brown's in the right here. Maybe he did lollygag it off the field. I don't know. I didn't really notice it. But you got to understand what kind of person that you're yelling at here, and that you may lose him for the rest of the game. And if you don't want him to come back next year because of that attitude, that's fine. But right now, you've got to work with the guy. And for you to snap on a guy and then have him come back at you, it's a terrible, terrible look. And I got to think that A.J. Brown lost a little bit of concentration out of that moment because he was invisible for the rest of the day. All right, we'll take our first break for the day. We'll come back. We have more sound. We have Jalen Hurts. We're going to go into our play-by-play. We'll go over the entire game, every series right here. Again, Mike Missinelli Birds Brunch Show is brought to us by Wapner Newman. Time's running out. Game's on the line. Who do you want taking the last shot? Well, you want Wapner Newman, PA, and New Jersey's premier medical malpractice and injury attorneys since 1978. Call this number. It's 215-569-0900, or check them out online at Wapner, W-A-P-N-E-R, Newman, Newman.com. Back after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. Every champion needs a good game plan. BCWSA and I want to make sure you have a game plan when it comes to conserving our most precious resource, water. Whether you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth, or watering your garden, there are ways you can save water and save money. Visit bcwsa.net for tips on conserving water. BCWSA, proven.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
Your day-to-day life is hectic between having to pick up the kids, make dinner, the countless other tasks that you got to get done. Rob's Automotive and Collision is there to make your life a whole lot easier. Make sure you take advantage of their spacious waiting rooms, the large flat-screen TVs, complimentary coffee and muffins, and free Wi-Fi. So even when you do have to stop, Rob's is there to make you feel right at home. Give Rob's a call today at 215-826-9200 for any of your auto repair needs. Flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
It's Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli following the Eagles game. This is our last Birds Brunch, unfortunately. You know, we go as long as the Eagles go. And I thought sure that we were going to be doing a show after a game in Chicago next week, but was not to be. Back to the confrontation. You know, I started to think when I saw that, it's like, have you ever worked in a shop where the boss doesn't have the same patience for one of his employees, and when the patient screws up, the employee screws up, the patient's wears thin, and he gets worse treatment than anybody else would get because you're conditioned as the boss to be on the edge about this guy already. Well, that's what I saw in Sirianni. He's on the edge about A.J. Brown. For him to snap out like that on that kind of a situation means that A.J. Brown has been pushing his buttons all year long, and it came out that way. That's the way I interpret it. And I don't think I'm wrong about that. All right, let's get Jalen Hurts in here before we go to our play-by-play. Jalen Hurts on the offense this season. This is Jalen speak, so whatever it's worth, you want to listen to Jalen talk about it. Here it is. This is cut number 2, Mike, on the offense this season with Jalen Hurts.
Obviously, you want more consistency. And there's a desire to improve steadily throughout the year, but, hard to look at it from a big picture perspective right now. I think just having the opportunity to go make something happen and not doing so for whatever reason, those are the things that we all have to improve.
I got to be honest. I don't think Jalen Hurts has been criticized enough in this game. I mean, he did nothing to win the game. A quarterback somewhere along the line, at home, when you're the better team, when you're the favorite, when you've got good personnel around you, should be able to win that game by himself. Whether it's running, which he didn't do. I think it was one design run. He didn't scramble out of the pocket and break their hearts with a play like going for 20 yards. He didn't do any of that. And he threw the pass he threw on third down to Devontae was a sailor. It was high in the wind where the nose was up and it took off like an airplane and went a little high. And then the other one was in triple coverage where he didn't read triple coverage. So this quarterback has a lot to be desired, especially in that game last night. Let's go back with him on his first season with Kevin Patullo. He was asked that question, believe it or not, after this game. Here's what he had to say.
I think I'm always growing. I'm always taking in my experiences and learning from everything that we go through. I think it's tough to single out one individual, especially in a moment like this. We all got to improve, and that's how I look at everything that we go through.
Yeah, it's the same old boring stuff from Jalen Hurts. The game was boring enough. We have to listen to Jalen speak, says Steve Savino, with a lot of Z's in his tweet. Hurts is an average quarterback, not top 10 if he doesn't take off running. Well, listen, I can't argue with that, to be honest with you. I cannot argue. Hurts is an average quarterback, not top 10 if he's not taking off running. That's such a big part of his game, and he doesn't do it. All right, let's get to our play-by-play in this game. We'll go over every series. I chart every series, so let's start with the opening possession. The Niners took over at their 24. The Niners did not have a really good field position on any of their kickoff returns. This one started at the 24. And Purdy, early on in this drive, hits DeMarcus Robinson for 58 yards. Robinson weaving back and forth, getting to the 15-yard line. And he beat Quinyon Mitchell in this on that play. Then he threw a floater to McCaffrey for a first down at the 5. Then McCaffrey ran it to the 2. And then the pass to Robinson, DeMarcus Robinson, in the back of the end zone, where he beat Mitchell again. It was a fake. It was a great play design by Kyle Shanahan, a fake jet sweep and a fake toss. And he came back to hit Robinson for the touchdown. That made it 7-0 49ers. Now, just one thing on Mitchell. Because a lot of people don't give him an A because he had 2 interceptions. Well, you saw those 2 passes allow the 49ers to score in their opening drive. So the Eagles got 1 field goal out of his 2 interceptions. Meanwhile, he gave up a touchdown there. So I don't know what kind of grade I would have given him. With 2 interceptions, I may have given him a B- or a C+. Eagles took over at the 37. Covey with a nice return. Barkley gets a big run for 29 yards to the 32-yard line. And Hurts to AJ for a first down at the 17. And on a 3rd and 3, Saquon goes off left tackle for a first down, gets to the 7. Then he gets to the 4. Then he gets to the 1. And it's 3rd and goal. And Goddard, tight end jet sweep for the touchdown. Another well-designed play. So in the first half, they're looking good, except the PAT is missed. And that would come to haunt them in the end. 7-6 they lead here. 49ers next drive, they punt. The Eagles couldn't take advantage of that. The Niners punted again. The Eagles took over at their 6. They got 2 first downs to the 34 on a 3rd and 10. False start, make it a 3rd and 15. They got to Devontae for 14 yards, 4th and goal. They go for it with a tush-push first down. And this drive ends up after Barkley has a big run for a first down to the 17-yard line. And Bigsby comes in for a couple of runs. He gets to the 10. 3rd and 5, Barkley for 4 yards. 4th and 2, they go for it. Rather than kick a field goal there to take the lead, they go for it. Hurts rolls right. He hits Goddard. Nice TD. They originally called an illegal man downfield, but the flag was picked up. It was a good touchdown. PAT was good. 16 plays, 9 minutes that drive. That's the drive of the game. They had 2 fourth-down conversions on this drive. The Niners then took over at the 21-yard line. Again, not great field position after a kickoff. But the big pass play to Juwan Jennings for 45 yards gets it to the Eagle 27. 3rd and 1, McCaffrey trips. He loses one. And on a 4th and 2, they go for the field goal where Eddie Pinheiro hits from 36 yards. So the Eagles are up 13-10 at this particular time. The Eagles punt on their next possession. They had a 3rd and 9 incomplete to AJ. And this is where AJ and Sirianni start jawing with each other. I think Sirianni was ticked off that maybe he thought AJ should have caught that ball. It went off his hands, actually. But the Eagles wound up punting on that. The Niners took over at the 22. Jalen Carter got a sack on that drive. 49ers were unsuccessful in trying to get in field goal position at the end of the first half where Purdy kind of fumbled the ball out of bounds. So they squandered a chance. So it's 13-10 Eagles. As we go into the second half, the Eagles punt on their first possession. Another punt by the Eagles. The Niners they got the ball back at their 4-yard line where they got a fair catch at the 4. I don't understand how pro players can decide to take a fair catch at the 4-yard line. You let that ball bounce over your head and go into the end zone. And this is where Purdy was intercepted by Quinyon Mitchell at the Eagle 47 on this drive. Hurts, design run for a first down, but it's good for a first down. But they had a hold on that play, so it's now back to the 18. A run to Barkley was stopped. Again, a 2nd and long, they run the ball, and there were boos cascading out of the stadium as the fans started to lose their patience a little bit. 3rd and 19, and no good. So another 3 and out. 3 straight drives with a punt for the Eagles there. The Niners fortunately give it back to them against the win, a 29-yard punt. The Eagles took over at the Niners 46, but they were only able to get it down the field to set up a 41-yard field goal where they take a 16-10 lead with 2:11 left in the 3rd quarter. As we go to the 4th quarter, the 49ers get a big pass play to Juszczyk. They get a first down at the Eagles 34, and then here comes the big play. The reverse, where Juwan Jennings gets the jet sweep handoff, comes around to the right. Blankenship gets sucked in for the touchdown. Juwan Jennings throws a perfect shot over the shoulder of Christian McCaffrey, double reverse pass, and the 49ers go up 17-16. The Eagles aren't done, though. The Eagles, after a punt possession, get the field goal that brings them within to give them a 19-17 lead as Barkley ran for 9 and got a first down to the 22. He got banged up on one of the plays. Bigsby's in. Hurts incomplete at the pylon. 3rd and 9 completion to Shipley, but it's 4th and 3. They decide to go for the field goal there to make it 19-17. So they're up 19-17 with 8:15 left in the game, and the 49ers go on a drive. 10 plays, 67 yards. First down at the 21. They got McCaffrey to the 9. Purdy to Juszczyk to the 4. The Gene breaks up a ball in the end zone. Good play by him. 3rd and goal. Purdy scrambles, hits McCaffrey for his 6-yard TD with Nakobe Dean in coverage, and the PIT was missed, and that was the final score, 23-19. And then we'll go over the final drive for the Eagles again. A chance to win it. You're looking for your quarterback. We used to examine Donovan McNabb all the time when it came to this. Was Donovan McNabb good enough to bring that team down the field to score the game-winning touchdown? Well, Hurts doesn't get the same scrutiny, but he failed in this situation. They started at the 35. The kick went in the end zone, so they had decent field position starting at the 35. Hurts to Barkley for 2, Hurts to Barkley for 3. Short passes. 3rd and 5, middle to AJ, drop. 4th and 5, they go for it. They hit Goddard for the first down at the Niners 45. Then Devontae with a couple receptions to the 35 and then to the 21. Hurts gets sacked on first down, -1. Wasn't that crazy of a sack, but he still lost yardage on that. And then after rolling right, he throws it away, which he did a lot in this game. 3rd and 11 at the 22-yard line. Incomplete to Smith on a pass that sailed high. Could Smith have caught it? Yes. I would say that if you got your hands on the ball like that, you catch it. However, he knew he was going to get blasted on that play. It's in the middle of the field with a bunch of safeties and cornerbacks coming at you, and maybe that was in Devontae's head, but not stretching fully out to get that ball. And then on 4th and 11, Hurts drops back, over the middle, incomplete, broken up by Eric Kendricks, threw into coverage. 3 guys converged on that play, so the Eagles lose the game. Hard to believe, man. It really is hard to believe when you go over the play-by-play of this game, the opportunities that they had to win the game, they just did not get it done. All right, let's go to our stats for this game. Brock Purdy, 18 of 31 for 262 yards. That's an 8.5 average. That's not bad. Got picked twice, but 2 touchdowns. The Eagles lose for one of the few times where they get the turnover advantage, as they had no turnovers. Christian McCaffrey, 15 carries for 48 yards. They pretty much stopped him, but they didn't stop him receiving because McCaffrey had 6 catches for 66 yards. Demarcus Robinson, the game of his life, 6 catches for 111 yards on 7 targets with a long of 61. Juszczyk caught 4 balls for 49. Let's get to the Eagles. Jalen, 20 of 35 for 168. He had a rating of 79.2. He had a QBR of 40.8. Threw for 1 touchdown. Average those completions, 4.8 yards. That is paltry. Saquon carried 26 times for 106 yards, an average of 4.1 per carry. Not bad. Tank Bigsby had his usual 5 yards a carry game, 4 carries for 19. Hurts ran the ball 5 times, 2.8 average. And that's the key. You know, the quarterback in this situation has to break that defense's back by getting a scramble first down or getting a design run for a first down. We go to our receivers. Devontae Smith, 8 for 70, 8.8 average. Again, not in double figures, but a long of 15. He had 11 targets. Dallas Goedert had 7 targets, caught 4 balls for 33 yards. Saquon Barkley, 3 catches for 25. A.J. Brown, 3 catches for 25. They came early, and in the second half, he was kind of invisible. Cooper had a catch for 9 yards, also had a big penalty in this game. Will Shipley got in there for a 6-yard catch. So you're talking about the San Francisco 49ers receiving and rushing. They had 291 receiving, and they had 75 yards rushing. So a pretty good day for the San Francisco 49ers with a kind of a skeleton crew playing on offense. All right, let's take a break. I need a breath. Time for a commercial break. We'll come back. We'll go around the NFL. We'll talk about the Eagles from this point on. We'll talk about the rest of the NFL playoffs. Let me just tell you that if you found yourself on the injured list, get help now by calling Wapner Newman, PA, and New Jersey's premier medical malpractice and injury attorneys. The number is 215-569-0900, or just visit wapnernewman.com. It is Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli, and we're back after this.
The Peruzzi Automotive Group on Business Route 1 in Fairless Hills is looking for auto techs, all skill levels. Here's a chance to work for a locally owned family business that offers many benefits. For more information, call the service director, John Damarotis, at 215-943-6200. That's 215-943-6200, or visit any Peruzzi service department.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. Every champion needs a good game plan. BCWSA and I want to make sure you have a game plan when it comes to conserving our most precious resource, water. Whether you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth, or watering your garden, there are ways you can save water and save money. Visit bcwsa.net for tips on conserving water. BCWSA, proven.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at penncommunitybank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
Your day-to-day life is hectic between having to pick up the kids, make dinner, the countless other tasks that you got to get done. Rob's Automotive and Collision is there to make your life a whole lot easier. Make sure you take advantage of their spacious waiting rooms, the large flat-screen TVs, complimentary coffee and muffins, and free Wi-Fi. So even when you do have to stop, Rob's is there to make you feel right at home. Give Rob's a call today at 215-826-9200 for any of your auto repair needs.
All right, we are back on Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli. Let's go around the league and talk about some of the games that were played this weekend as the NFL playoffs, the wild card round was in full steam here. Puka Nacua had a monster game for the LA Rams, but the Rams found themselves trailing by 4 points with 2 minutes and 3 seconds left, with 2 minutes and 38 seconds left, with the Carolina Panthers poised to pull an upset over here. Nacua was asked when he got into the huddle, what was the strategy? And he said, we never had a doubt because number 9 is with us, talking about Matthew Stafford. Stafford led the Rams 71 yards on the final drive, completed 6 of 7 passes. The only incompletion came on a drop by Devontae Adams, in fact, but he capped it off with a perfectly placed 10-yard touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson with 38 seconds left as the Rams got a dramatic come-from-behind 34-31 win over the Panthers in the opening game of the NFL playoffs on Saturday, the game that preceded the Eagles. Let's go with the highlight. Cody Parkinson catching the game-winning touchdown.
Stafford going towards the end zone. Parkinson! What a catch! And a touchdown!
Was a pretty good catch. Had it over his head and held on to it as it came down. So after the game, a lot of people had plaudits for Matthew Stafford. You see him out there. He just has the best composure of anyone I have ever seen, Parkinson said. He knows that we're going to make it happen, and we completely trust him. I knew he was going to have to throw back shoulder ball. That was the perfect ball, like perfect. It couldn't have been placed any better. And it was. So there you go. The Rams come from behind to beat the spunky Panthers. The next game, the Chicago Bears. Well, the Bears come roaring back again like they've done all year to beat the Packers. Caleb Williams finds DJ Moore wide open down the sideline for the go-ahead touchdown. Let's hear it.
Use the clock. Williams throwing, and it's caught for the touchdown by DJ Moore. Forget about the clock, just take the lead.
Yep, 25-yard touchdown pass to Moore with 1:43 remaining. The Chicago Bears rally from an 18-point deficit to beat the Green Bay Packers 31-27. They extended the first season. This is unbelievable. Their 7th fourth-quarter comeback victory. So, maybe it would not have been a box of chocolates for the Eagles to go to Chicago in that second-round game anyway. All right, the third game, well, this was another corker. The Bills beat the Jaguars with the superstar Josh Allen. It's unbelievable. Carried Buffalo to the first playoff win in more than 3 decades, 27-24 over Jacksonville. Allen found Brandon Cooks for 36 yards just before the 2-minute warning, and then capped the go-ahead drive with a 1-yard touchdown, which Jacksonville let him score to try to get the ball back. But he had a sneak before they gained 10 yards where he refused to go down and was pushed and pulled to the goal line. But the game ended on an interception as Trevor Lawrence had a chance to get the ball back down the field, but Trevor Lawrence, his pass was tipped and intercepted. Tre'Davious White got a hand on the ball, and Cole Bishop corralled it to any chance of a comeback. Here's the play.
2 is at the 50. That would match his career long as 68-yard attempt. Ball's intercepted. The game is over as Cole Bishop gets it off the rebound. Tre'Davious White.
Yep, that's the way those games played out. And tonight you got a big one with the Texans and Pittsburgh Steelers. And so let's look at now what's happening in the playoffs. The 49ers will go to the Seahawks. They're a 7-point underdog. The line has been set already. They are a 7-point underdog in Seattle. So I got to be honest with you. I think the Seahawks will win that game easy. I would put this is my I call it the shoebox bet. If you bet Seahawks on the money line, you just say you put $1 million in a shoebox and you put it next to a tree. and then you wake up the next day and you bet that $1 million on Seattle on the money line. You can't lose, right? It's a better investment than if you went to a bank and deposited that $7 million. So that's what I call a shoebox bet. There's no way the 49ers are going to win another game as depleted as they are by going into Seattle and winning that game. 7-point underdog. The Bills, meanwhile, are a favorite on the road at Denver. Nobody is giving the Denver Broncos any credit at all. A home dog against the Buffalo Bills, who had a squirm to beat the Jaguars. Now, Rams are also a road favorite. They're -3.5 at Chicago at the Bears. And of course, tonight, the Texans are also a favorite in Pittsburgh. So the road dog is big here. 2.5 Texans over the Steelers in this game. All right, we're going to take our final break of the game. We'll come back and we'll wrap this Eagles season up on what happens from this point on. New offensive coordinator. Will the head coach still be here? Will AJ be gone? A lot of contracts are coming up. We'll talk about them after this. This is the Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli. Don't forget, in a city of champions, you deserve champion legal representation. Wapner Newman is PA and New Jersey's premier medical malpractice and injury attorneys. Just call this number. It's 215-569-0900 or visit wapnernewman.com. Back after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's.
The Peruzzi Automotive Group on Business Route 1 in Fairless Hills is looking for auto techs, all skill levels. Here's a chance to work for a locally owned family business that offers many benefits. For more information, call the service director, John Damarotis, at 215-943-6200. That's 215-943-6200, or visit any Peruzzi service department.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
Well, a lot of people on the chat board today. James Cox says Hurts could have gotten the yards running and we get a triple coverage pass to end it. Yeah, he could have run that ball. I would have put the ball in his hands. Missed extra point, lost the option near the end of the game. Yeah, it was a killer. I remember a week ago, the Eagles rested all their starters and took the 3rd seed because they weren't afraid of the Niners. Well, they didn't really know they were going to play the Niners at that point. How about Ben Johnson damn near brushing off LaFleur? Well, they hate each other. Those two franchises do not like each other. It manifested itself on the post-game handshake. It was kind of like a fish shake. Ben just put it out and ran away. That was the end of that. Carl Hines de Simone had to cancel my hotel reservations in Center City, anticipating a parade. Now he can't go to Nick's roast beef, he says. LOL. All right, let's bring Mike Warren back in here. Mike, last week on our podcast, Anthony Sanfilippo said that he would take John Harbaugh right now over Nick Sirianni. Would you?
No, I would not. Just because what it's going to set off catastrophically after the fact. You want to keep some continuity here, and I understand that Nick Sirianni is going to be under fire. I understand that I was just previously on this show giving him a ton of, what is coming his way and will deservedly so come his way. But you get rid of Nick Sirianni, you need to have a better option to come in. And I'm not saying Harbaugh isn't, but Harbaugh couldn't get the job done with Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's bringing in a better coordinator to work with Jalen Hurts. It's not a good operation. You have something there with Sirianni and Jalen. They're clearly on the same page. They respect each other. You keep that continuity. You just find the right coordinator in the offseason. And I think a lot of these problems go away.
You find a coordinator like who? Kellen Moore? like Steichen? Like who do
So,
you find?
somebody that is innovative enough to know that, you have three of the best targets, or had, if you get Goddard back, you'd have them, three of the best targets in the NFL to get them open in the middle of the field. I mean, somebody that has a true understanding of what a modern NFL offense should look like, not what we just watched for 18 games, 19 games this year. It was just so elementary, so mundane. Whatever word you want to use to describe this bland, predictable offense, you could use it. And I think you just need to get somebody in here that's going to make the game fun again and make the game enjoyable to watch again.
What percentage do you think that Kevin Patullo is back next year?
Personally, I think it's a less than 5% chance. I don't see how he could keep his job. I think that's the one silver lining in this playoff loss, is that you get rid of Kevin Patullo. It's not like this remedy has not smacked the Eagles in the face before, right? Like the whole Press Taylor thing with Doug, they tried to do it with Carson, it didn't work out. Brian Johnson and Nick trying to internally keep a guy who has never called plays before, who has just been a quarterback's guy or a passing game coordinator, and to try to elevate him to a play caller status is foolish. It's asinine. And there's enough evidence now historically to show for the Eagles that, hey, this doesn't work. Hiring somebody internally to call plays doesn't work. We need to get somebody that's been there, done that, and that has learned from their mistakes. Kellen Moore learned from his past mistakes with the Cowboys, with the Chargers, and put it all into fruition with the Eagles with a ground game. You need to find somebody that has had some bumps in the road here and that is looking for another chance and that can prove. Maybe it is Brian Daboll. I don't know. But it's got to be somebody that knows football, that knows how to scheme guys open, and Kevin Patullo is not that guy.
You want Chip Kelly back? How about Chip Kelly? You want Chip back?
Yeah, I think Howie's got a meeting set up already with Chip in that.
Yeah, I don't think Chip's coming back. All right, what's the percentage that A.J. Brown is back next year?
I think it's a pretty high percentage. I'd say a 75% chance.
Really?
Back with the Eagles. Yeah, 100%. I think the whole Jalen and AJ thing was so blown out of proportion this year. I do agree with your fact that Nick and AJ, there is some wearing in that relationship.
There's something there.
But I don't think it's irreparable. Like I think they're able to make amends and get back on the same page, and I think they know that, with the right play caller and the right scheme, that they can get back to where they were 2 seasons ago now.
Yeah, the other thing about that is Devontae Smith's a good player. I don't know if he's a number one guy.
Right.
He's better as a wide receiver too. But the thing about AJ is that eventually you get enough of them. The Titans had enough. The Eagles are in a situation where maybe they go, we just had enough of this guy. We can't go through that again.
Yeah, the Eagles are, they're not shy to say that they're ready to have difficult conversations. There's going to be a couple of them around A.J. Brown, and the first is him being accountable. He needed to play better in a big game, and he didn't.
All right, talk about what this team is going to be next year, because I know there are a lot of contracts that won't be back.
Yeah. This defense is going to look a lot different, that's for sure. You don't know how much money they're going to be able to allocate to that side. Nakobe Dean contract's up, Reed Blankenship, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., his contract is up. There's a lot of pieces on this defense that will not be back with the Eagles. And how does Howie Roseman prioritize them? That's the real question. I don't think Dallas Goedert comes back just because he scored so many touchdowns this year. He's going to be at a market value that I don't think the Eagles can afford, and I don't think Howie Roseman's going to predicate that. But you've got to bring back somebody in this linebacking core, and it is Nakobe Dean to play with Zach Bond, because you've seen when they're both healthy and together, they can play well. I think they lose Jeremiah Trotter Jr., unfortunately. That's a guy that's looking for a starting opportunity and deserves it, just from hearing other players in that locker room talk about him. And Reed Blankenship, talk about a downward trajectory for the last couple weeks in terms of his performance. The Bills game, he did not play well, and he didn't play well in the playoffs. So I don't know if he'll be back either, but I think he'll be at a pretty low cost. So yeah, this team's going to look a lot different. They really did. They messed up an opportunity to go back to back and to show that they were a full team, and winning fixes a lot of those problems. You go back to the Super Bowl, you win, or even if you just get back to the Super Bowl, you have some guys that are considering taking some pay cuts to stay a part of a winning brand and a winning culture, but you don't know what you're getting this offseason.
Let me ask you this: is Calcaterra good enough to step into Goddard's spot yet? Now,
if Grant Calcaterra is on this roster next year, we got some big problems, man. We got some big problems.
Well, they don't have a tight end. You're saying get rid of Goddard. They had a chance to draft Harold Fanning Jr.
right
last year, and they did not do it. It was right there for them.
Yeah, plenty of tight ends in that most recent draft class that the Eagles could have had to kind of understudy Dallas this year. But yeah, I think you got to hope that Dallas gives Philly a hometown discount one more time. Because I don't see it happening, but that's the only way I think that you get him back, because there's going to be some team out there that's going to overpay for him for sure.
All right. Anything else? Did we miss anything on this debacle?
I don't think so. I think we touched all the bases on this one, man.
I think we touched we squeezed all the poison out of this game yesterday, and we're ready to move on to the Sixers and the Flyers and the Phillies at this point. Hope for spring training now. That's only about 30 days away, right?
Yeah, pitchers and catchers right around the corner. Can't wait.
All right, this has been Birds Brunch with Mike Missinelli, brought to you by the good folks at Wapner Newman Law Firm. Thanks to Mike Warren. Thanks to everybody who watched the show and chimed in on our chat board. Have a great rest of the day. Eagles lose it 23-19, one of the most bitter defeats you're ever going to have. I hope you guys can get over it this week. Take all the time you need to get over this, because it's a disheartening loss. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.